It's a pleasure to introduce Miss Kasturi Shah to all of you today. She hails from Kerala and has secured an impressive rank of 68 this year. She is a remarkable student from school days itself, where she has achieved a perfect 10 CGPA in class 10th and 99% in class 12th. She has pursued her interest in English language and literature during her graduation days. But what's even more impressive that she has cleared UPSC in her first attempt only. But her talents extend beyond academics. She is a shining star in the world of literature, having authored multiple English books ranging from poetry to short stories that reflect her diverse interests and literary talents. Adding to her achievements, she had the privilege of being invited by the Honorable Prime Minister of India to witness the Republic Day parade in 2019 from the esteemed Prime Minister's box. So let's give a warm round of applause for Ms. Kasturi. And I would like to call upon stage Ayushi ma'am to felicitate her. Huge round of applause, everyone. Okay. So without wasting much time, I would like to give the stage to ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great joy to be standing here, to be coming here and talking to you all. So, I'll tell you something about what I did as a part of the preparation beginning. Firstly, I prepared for my optional. I decided my optional sociology, and the first 4 months I set apart for optional preparation. So that is what I did. I attended classes, I prepared notes, and then I began answer writing. I took part in all the test series which were given by the faculty. So within the 4 months, my optional sociology was almost done there. And along with that, I also revised the school books, the NCERTs that we had already covered back in school. Moving on, and by then it was May. So May onwards, I started attending the GS batch, the regular. I did coaching at a private academy in Thiruvananthapuram. I am from the Thiruvananthapuram district of Kerala. So that's where I did my coaching. And after regular coaching of 1 year, where almost all the other GS subjects were covered, and I gave the exam in May 2023, the prelims. Now, looking back, two things that really worked out in this journey. One was the early preparation for the optional sociology, and another thing was the early preparation for ethics that I did. Way back, before the prelims, almost like 5 months before, I had already completed the ethics syllabus. I found most of my friends beginning to learn ethics after the prelims results have been announced. But as I was able to cover the ethics syllabus and already get ready with the notes and things, it also made the answer writing when it came to ethics for GS4 easier. So these were the two things that worked most importantly for mains. And coming to prelims, it was about taking tests. For instance, like I had two ways before me, like Robert Frost says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So one way for me was to do this passive sort of revision, going back to the books, taking up books pages by pages, sitting with Lakshmikant for hours. But then I found it quite boring, I should say. Again, going through Lakshmikant was not something that I really wanted. And another way before me was to do questions, challenge myself, play a game like the Kaun Banega Crorepati that we have. Yes, so it was like you take each question and sit with it, challenge yourself, try to find out an answer for that. So that was the method that I adopted for prelims. Enrolling for test series, I took the Vision Abhyas test series here. Then multiple institutes and also from the free UPSC materials that we have online. So it was about solving questions and going through the answer keys and kind of revision that took place. So it was the active revision method for that worked for prelims. And coming to CSAT, another thing that I had to say is I am not a person who is very strong with my maths and arithmetic. I left maths in class 10. I have an arts background after that. So I found the mathematics part quite challenging when it came to CSAT, and it was one of my biggest nightmares. even after writing CSAT, I came home, I thought, no, I'm never going to make it because I had not attended more than 40 questions. But I think what really worked in CSAT was the error margin was less. Even though I did about 40 questions, the number of questions that went wrong were less. So I was pretty confident about the comprehension part. So that's what I did in the first 1 hour. In the first 1 hour, I did all the comprehension questions. And in the following 1 hour, I went into only those areas which I knew I was strong. So that's something that I like to tell you all because see, we have 80 questions in CSAT, but we need not do all the 80. We have lot of freedom there to choose the questions that we are strong. So first thing, we need to be very aware about which topics are we really strong, which are we moderately strong, and which areas are we weak. For instance, I do not know anything about permutation or combination or the probability area, but I feel myself more stronger when I come to questions of work in time. So I used to make a list during preparation, which are the topics in CSAT that I am stronger, and this helped me to choose those questions in CSAT which I'll be able to tackle. Because one thing that we'll be facing in CSAT, a major challenge would be the availability of time. So within that constraint of time, first thing would be to identify those questions which we'll be able to solve without getting an error. So that is how the CSAT was tackled. And now coming to the, I'll talk a bit about the note-making strategy because I've heard a lot of questions from aspirants asking me, how did you prepare notes in the first attempt and things. Initially, I was really very confused about making notes. Should I start making notes for the NCRTs, for the standard books and all that? But the only notes I had were the class notes. Whatever lecture notes I had in class, I used to maintain proper lecture notes for almost all the subjects. And apart from the lecture notes, what I did was for optional, I did made short notes, which helped me revise. For instance, in sociology, we'll have the names of theorists and thinkers and their works. So those things which I needed to remember frequently. So those things, just that, I used to make it in a page, or say, for example, take the chapter Religion in Society. I used to condense it into 2 or 3 pages. Just these important facts that I needed to remember. So for optional, I did make such short notes. Apart from that, after prelims, like from June to almost till August, those 3 months, I did make notes from the newspaper, those things which would come in handy for mains. Not everything, but facts or examples, a good quote that we might come across, a good case study. So those things which would come in handy for mains, those 3 months I did make notes. And when I wrote my mains answers, practiced it, I tried incorporating these points that I had noted down from the newspaper into my answers. So I wouldn't say that we need a lot of facts or lot of examples. 3 months of newspaper stats and examples is more than sufficient to bring in that quality for the mains answers. So I was a bit worried because after prelims, I did not have all these example sets or case study sets. So I was thinking, like, is the 3 months of examples enough? But then I understood it's more than enough. So those 3 months, we'll have to make some value addition points. And for ethics, there are also websites like the Better India, where we can find good case studies to enrich our answers. So, and another thing was, when it comes to mains, is about the way you present the answer. Like everybody will be knowing all these points that we need to put into the answer. But very often we might think that we need to bring all these high sounding or all these great points which nobody writes. But I think when it comes to mains, it's about writing the basic points which many of the others would miss out. For instance, reading an NCRT textbook, or what a school child might know, that those points must be there in the answer, and then we can bring in all those grand things we have read in big books. So the basic things that must be very clear even in a mains answer. And a major source that I found useful over the preparation was the NCRTs for prelims as well as for mains. I did not make any specific notes for the NCRTs, what I used to do was I used to highlight in the NCRT itself, or I used to underline, or we have these white spaces, the borders. I used to make short notes there itself. But the NCRTs were always important, even for mains. Any question, especially with regards to GS1 or a GS3 question, NCRT would mention it somewhere. There would be a mention. For instance, in GS1, we had a question to compare Gandhiji and Tagore, their views on education. Now, if you look, I've not read anything about it in Spectrum. I've not heard anything about it. But Class 8 NCRT does mention about it, history. So, what a school child might know, I think that is the basics that we need to go to, and that's where the NCRTs will help us very much. And now coming to the, so I've spoken about prelims, about mains. Now coming to the interview preparation. Interview process was something that was really enjoyable, because after that 3 months of hectic preparation for mains where we have to sit down for long hours and study, coming to interview, we were learning more about ourselves. We have the DAF, your hobbies, the school where we studied. So it's more about knowing more about yourself, a kind of self-discovery, and meeting with a lot of senior bureaucrats, interacting with them. We get this opportunity to take a lot of mocks. So all these bureaucrats that we have only read about in the newspapers or heard about, we're getting a real chance to go meet them, go talk with them for the mock interviews. So I did come here at Vision for the mock interview. So that was a process in which I prepared for the interview, taking in mocks, interacting, getting to talk with people. And I did revise ethics and my optional before going for the interview once more. But I did not get any particular optional related questions. And also I focused on current affairs as well, forming opinions on what were the major things happening. But there weren't many questions from current affairs either for the interview. The interview went along the lines of the DAF that I had submitted from my graduation, as well as the literature background. They were asking me about the Republic Day experience that I had when I came to Delhi, and why do Indians write in English, kind of. So I think the board was also interested in literature. So if you can bring a connection with the board, bring in a kind of a personal nature, and also that humble nature when you talk with these senior officers out there. So I think that's how the interview preparation went. It did not feel like you need to prepare for the interview like the way you prepare for mains, because interview is quite an enjoyable process. You're going to meet some people, talk with them, that's all. But mains, it will take you some time to sit down, practice writing answers within that 3-hour time frame. So mains is something that the main logic that went into my head was, see, it says 3 months, just sit down and study for 3 months and it's done. So that was how I motivated myself to sit for those long hours and prepare for mains. So that was how the 3 phases went. Now, should I clarify something more, if you can ask?
Many congratulations, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to know that how to prepare notes from current affairs, that is newspapers, and keep it handy for the prelims also at the same time.
I read the Hindu, that was the newspaper I followed. And initially when I read the newspaper, it took me long hours, sometimes days to finish the newspaper. It felt so long and so chunky. And initially I also couldn't follow all the news, because I did not have this habit of reading the newspaper regularly during my college days. So initially I used to make notes from the newspaper, but those notes began to run into pages and pages. I did not revise those notes at all, but making those notes during the initial phase has helped me, in the sense that it has given me more focus, more concentration, more awareness when I also write along with it. So, but after 3 months of making notes, I stopped. I just went with reading the newspaper regularly. And in order to revise what I had read, I depended on a compilation. We have the Visions compilation or any other compilation that's available. But I did not read everything from the compilation. It was a selective reading of those things which I felt I had forgotten, or those things which I felt I'm not aware. So it was like a selective reading of the compilation. For instance, if the compilation has around 150 to 200 pages, I would be reading around 50 to 60 pages only from that compilation. So, and for mains, the note preparation was, I used to write down, reading the editorial, if there is a good way forward that is presented at the end of the editorial, I used to make a note of it. Or if it's a good example that's been given, the name of a Supreme Court judgment, or say a case study of a best practice adopted in some village and it became a success. So those things, only those things which I felt like, yes, it can be implemented somewhere when we write a mains answer. So that was how the newspaper and the note making went.
A very congratulations, ma'am. Basically, I have two questions. One is that how should we make our mains notes? As many of the toppers reiterated the point that we should have that one topic, 2 pages notes of one topic each. For example, RPA 51 it comes. So then, how to follow one template? Number one. And second, ma'am, as your background was more of a literature side, so if you can guide us how to make our essay more comprehensive, coherent. So these are the two questions. Thank you, ma'am.
First, I'll come to the essay question. Regarding how we can make the essay more comprehensive and more nice. Essay writing, I used to do it in school and college, but when I came to writing UPSC essays, I understood what the UPSC demands from essay in this exam is a bit different from what we've been writing in schools and colleges. Back then, as soon as I saw the topic, I used to take the pen and start writing. But then here I understood, no, quite a flow of thought, and that structure is very important when it comes to the essay. So the first thing, we have 2 essays in 3 hours. So dividing it into 1.5 hours each. And the first half an hour would be for brainstorming process. At the end of the answer booklet, we'll have rough pages where we can brainstorm. First, it's choosing the topic. 4 topics, we'll have to select one. So give it some thought. Look at which topic we'll be able to write in a more comfortable way. Choose the topic and start brainstorming. And when we brainstorm, we can simply put in our mains syllabus into it to generate points. Each GS paper, like take history, a geographical angle, a cultural angle to it, a social angle, go to the next, like governance perspective, polity. So using the same mains syllabus framework, just apply it to generate the points. So the points are generated, you just note it down. Another thing by which you can bring some value addition into the essay is those facts or examples, case studies, which we have already prepared for the GS. Whatever we prepare for the GS, whatever we have read over the years is going to be helpful in the essay as well. And another thing is, be mindful of dividing the essay into small, equally sized paragraphs so that it becomes easier for the reader to navigate through the pages. That's another thing. And then try to bring in subheadings. Do not make it too much of like 7-8 subheadings, no. Less than 4 subheadings or probably 3 subheadings. Yeah, so bring in subheadings for the essay. Apart from that, see, essay is a space where we can make use of all the creativity that we have. If we can say, bring in a story from our imagination or suddenly drop a few lines of a poem from the imagination, that you can still write it, you can bring it into the essay. Essay does not mean it should all be in prose. So if you can just think of a poet, a few lines of poem, bring it there. Either you can write your own poem, or if you know a few lines from another poet, you can put it there. And another thing, which many things that we prepare for ethics will also help us for essay. For instance, for ethics, I used to have a book of quotes where I did write down all the interesting quotes, or sometimes I used to just go Google inspirational quotes about education or about, say, women empowerment or about democracy. So I used to make these quotes, write them down in a separate book. And these quotes will also help you for the essay. And another thing is, we can bring in like interesting phrases from Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Quran, the Upanishads, the Vedas. So these are all sources that we can introduce into our answers and the essay to give it a broader, that a diverse perspective. And when we write the shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, we can write it in Sanskrit along in the English, in English letters. So, you got what I meant, yeah. And along with that, the meaning of that in such a context. So that will enrich the quality of the essay. Yes, and it's also about exploring the different dimensions of a topic. For instance, the essay that I wrote for my mains, the first essay was "Not all those who wander are lost." So, how do you see the different dimensions of this? One thing, yes, not all those who wander are lost. For instance, bringing in the example of Lord Buddha, he wandered, he wasn't lost, he found a greater world of enlightenment. Another, you can still contradict that and say, but there are people who are lost when they wander. And bring in examples there. Another perspective is, there are people who are lost, but it is not because they wander. Wandering is not the only reason why people get lost, right? So that is how, just play with the words, mix up here and there, and you will get the dimensions. So that's another way of looking at it. Yes, that's about the essay. And the first question, mains notes. I did not have the kind of, of course, I've heard many toppers say that for every topic from the syllabus, we need to have notes of 2 and 3 pages. But I found that really hard and difficult, because after prelims, which is this 3 months, and I had not done anything before prelims for making notes or anything like that for mains. So I thought, if I spend all my time making notes, I wouldn't even be able to cover half of the GS1 syllabus if I sit making notes like that. So what I did for mains was, first I did revise my class notes, and I used to go through the previous year questions and the answers. Just Google for prepared answers of previous year questions. We'll get it online from different websites. Just read through these already prepared answers. We can bookmark it and keep it and later go on and revise it. So through, that's one way. Another way is, I enrolled for multiple test series, Vision as well as numerous other institutes, and the answer keys of these MTS, the mains test series, were really helpful, especially in knowing what are the current questions that are being asked, or say in picking up good examples, in generating points, in getting an analytical flavor for the questions. So the answer keys of the mains test series were really helpful. I did not otherwise sit and prepare notes like that for each and every topic. But a preparation was more like the answer key oriented and the topper copies. Like for Vision, this was my favorite web page in Vision, going to the toppers copies in Vision and reading up like former toppers copies, and then you'll get to understand what kind of points are really required. And you'll often find the toppers writing very relevant, apt examples. There is nothing wrong in we learning those examples and using it in our answers. It's not a copyright infringement or something, because those are very relevant examples. We can, of course, refer them, get their help in our answers too. So that was how the mains, I did not make specific notes for every topic in mains.
Okay, ma'am. So I have one question as well. Like we have seen that GS3 is very dynamic when it comes to economics. So what was your approach and what was your sources for the GS3, especially economics?
Economics, I depended on the class notes and slides which were given at the academy where I studied. We used to have slides prepared by the sir itself for every topic in the syllabus. And apart from that, the budget and the economic survey was something that has really helped for economics GS3 to bring in government authorized facts and data there. And another thing that might also work for GS3 is Yojana magazine. It doesn't mean we have to sit and read all the issues of Yojana, but there will be certain issues which are very relevant, say rural industries or horticulture or agripreneurship. So there will be certain issues of Yojana which will be very relevant to GS3. So just go through it and make notes. Yojana itself will highlight certain points in the pages, so it's easier for us to pick up those points as well. And in every GS3 answer, if you write, if we can bring in a government scheme, a government program, if you can list down them, it will look very good. And even at the conclusion of the answer, if we can draw a connection to a government program, for instance, the Amrit Kal, the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, or say the Panch Pran, which was said by the Prime Minister during Independence Day, all these things will enrich the content of the answers as well. So that is it.
Ma'am, similarly, for prelims also, if you can break down your subject-wise approach or notes making or whatever you did.
For prelims, the NCRTs, the first source I would say is the NCRTs of class 6 to 12, not the science subjects. I did not read the science subjects, but the ecology and the environment related chapters from the class 11, 12 biology, I did read that. And so first thing was NCRTs. Apart from that, we know the standard books like for polity, it was Lakshmikant. And for modern India, it was the Spectrum. For ancient history, I followed the old NCRT, R.S. Sharma's old NCRT. For medieval, I followed the NCRT, the new NCRT, and the class notes. I did not read Satish Chandra's medieval India NCRT because I found it a bit heavy for me. So I think this preparation we need to make in a lot of things that that is personalized and customized for us. Nobody knows us better than ourselves, right? So what will work for us, what will not work for us? If you find Satish Chandra heavy and not possible, no, there are other sources from which you can pick up medieval India. UPSC never says only if you read Satish Chandra, we are going to give you a job. No. So we have enough freedom and flexibility there. So apart from that, for economics, it was my class notes and Ramesh Singh, but not all the chapters. Again, a selective reading of chapters, say banking or money. So certain chapters which I felt like, okay, if I read this, more clarity would be there. So I just read those chapters. And for art and culture, it was the NCRT of class 11 and that of Nitin Singhania's art and culture text. But not all the chapters again. We know, like, it's the first attempt. We do not have much time to read everything. So, and even revise everything. So, Nitin Singhania, even it was a selective reading of the chapters, those which felt like more important or which felt like I want more content on it. Yes, that was it for prelims, but more than studying, I told prelims was more about solving questions, answering the questions. So, but do not think that in every test I wrote, I got like above 70. No, never. Because the first test I wrote, the marks did not go beyond 50. Even it persisted, like even for 4 and 5 tests, like the marks got stuck. I thought, no, it's not going to improve, it's going to be stuck. But I think it's like rolling the stone to the top of a hill. We know this, the myth of Sisyphus. It will take the effort to push the stone to the top of the hill, but once it reaches the tipping point, the progress that you will see yourself make is going to be amazing. So that you will have to put in some effort to push that stone and make it reach that pinnacle. But once it reaches there, it has all the momentum with it that then things will happen as you plan. So it's about staying, persevering, even when you get like 50 or 60, believe in yourself, it is possible. We'll be able to make it. We'll be able to make it to the 1900 one day. So, but, so a week before prelims, I wrote a CSAT exam and I didn't clear the CSAT exam. Like I just got around 57 or something in CSAT. So it was like short by 7-8 marks. Thought, oh, I was like telling to myself, Kasturi, see, you're writing CSAT a week before prelims and still you're not clearing it. But see, none of the test series that we write is going to be like UPSC. So trust UPSC, trust that it has things that we'll be able to manage.
Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, my question is regarding how to use mains test series and how to effectively use, because when we join, we write, we have lots of questions there. There are lots of content. So how to inculcate those content in our notes, and matlab, to what extent we should go regarding ki how much content it is. So my question is regarding this only.
Mains test series, I did enroll for 3 or 4 mains test series, but one test series among them, I followed it like the daily schedule. We'll have the daily schedule. This is the topic that you need to study today, and based on that evening, there will be 3 questions. So that schedule I followed every day. From say Monday to Sunday, there will be the comprehensive test. For instance, one week it might be the geography test, and another week it might be the governance and polity together. So each week we'll be able to cover each area of the syllabus through the test. Apart from this, I had also enrolled for few other test series, but how it has helped was the answer keys. I did not go, for instance, I've taken the Vision Bains test series, but I did not get the time to write all the answers and send it or get it corrected. But I did attempt a few questions, say during the at night or during the weekends. Weekends, usually it will be the mains test series, a 3-hour process, and after that we feel quite tired. So whenever it feels like writing an answer, you can simply take in write by creating a micro target. Say keep half an hour, and within half an hour we're going to write, say, 7 minutes each, 4 to 5 questions. That kind of a planning. That is where the test series would help us. And the answer keys. Answer keys, in the answer keys itself, we can highlight, maybe using a highlighter, a red pen. So only those points which we'll be able to revise just before the exam. So that was how the mains answer keys has helped. And with regard to incorporating all these examples that we have come across in the mains answer, that will come only with practice. We'll have to practice. And another constraint would be the time when it comes to the mains. Writing 20 questions in 3 hours, initially I couldn't write more than like 14 questions. I only wrote 14 questions, the first mains test series. And all those 14 questions also, the quality was also quite poor. So, and then as you said, lots of content. Now the question was, okay, how do I improve it? You have 3 months, how are you going to improve from 14 to 20? But then it takes a lot of practice. Keep these micro targets. Half an hour, I'm going to write 4 questions. With micro targeting, small steps, and then at the end, when you write a comprehensive test at the weekend, you'll be able to, like, from 14, we'll be able to make it 16, from 16 to 17, and then at the end of it, we'll be able to complete it.
When we write, we always feel that ki there are certain things, the FOMO, fear of missing out, ki these things I'm missing, this topic I have not read in comprehensively, I'm not able to write a good answer. To what extent we should go towards content? In GS3 actually it happens ki there are lots of things, current, static, and in GS2 to some extent. So for 2 papers where we should limit ourselves.
First of all, I think we need to accept the fact that there are limits to content. There are limits to the amount of time we can spend building the content, but something that we can work on is our thinking process. For instance, there was a question GS2 this year about the International Maritime Organization. Now, that's not something that we usually read about, or it's something that we rarely even think about. But we do not have the luxury of skipping that question because it's a 15-mark question. Skipping it? No, that's not way at all. So here I'll be very honest, I did not know anything. I did not read about this at all in the 1 year of preparation for the exam or even before that. Okay, so now what do I write? That was the question. So I thought, okay, I'll keep it for the end of it. So that's the answer that I wrote at the end of the exam. And began to think, okay, maritime. So, what would be the things that generally is associated with maritime? Those would be the things the International Maritime Organization too will be doing, right? For instance, it can look into the freedom of navigation or even bring in unique points like controlling oil spills. See, think, just diversify, think all those things that we've read even in ecology, anywhere. That is something that the IMO will be doing, of course. And so that is how you generate points. Am I clear? So don't be very bothered about the content. Just keep reading the topper copies or the answer keys and the basic materials that you will have. And please do bring in the basic points when we write the answers.
Okay, can I again?
Yes.
So it's a broad question, and you can choose to answer part of it. You have been prolific reader and writer as well, and it might have, and I can see it. It has helped you in a immense way. For example, the creative part of the UPSC, but UPSC also looking for a very precise kind of preparation, right? Targeted and simple, as you said. How did you manage to do that when you are this much of creative person? It comes hard. It requires a lot of customization. How did you do that?
The first thing was I tried keeping things simple throughout the journey. One thing I used to tell myself was, please don't make it unnecessary complex. Please do keep things simple. And that simplicity would definitely work. For instance, writing mains, a thought that needs to be that there at the back of the mind is another person is going to read this. So if we can make the job of that person easier, of course, the evaluator will make our life easier too, right? So the thing was, write in a very clear and legible language and bring in variety, diversity, break that boredom. Like the evaluator going through numerous answer scripts, suddenly when he takes your paper, he needs to find something interesting that he would sit down and read it, right? So bring in diagrams, and even with diagrams, bring in like those flow charts, maps, anywhere. If you can think about something, use your creativity. We need not be great artists, just the kind of scribbling that we used to do in school. That kind of drawing would be enough. And another way we can bring in diversity is the way we make use of bullet points. Do not use that monotonous kind of bullet points in all the answers. Bring in different types of bullet points. One question, if you're using an arrow, another question, use maybe a rectangle, maybe a circle. So, a kind of a visual appeal. Whatever we say, appearances do matter, right? So, the appearance of your answer itself will elevate the score that we be fetching. So, these are things that I've experimented and that I have found is working out. So, and also the way we write the headings. From the question itself, we can frame headings for the answer. Read the question, use keywords from the question itself and put the heading in a box, write the heading in capital letters, center stage it so that it comes to the attention, and it also creates an impression that, yeah, the candidate has addressed all the parts of the question. Because if you this is what a mentor has told me. He's been evaluating UPSC answer papers for some time, and he said in the UPSC answer key, there would be a split up of marks. For instance, for the first part of the question, 5 marks. The second part, 3 marks. So one thing that the evaluator would be looking for is, have you addressed all these parts of the question? So an advantage that we would have when we frame headings from the question itself, the evaluator is very easily able to pick up, oh, this candidate has addressed all parts. So even if we don't know much about it, just saying the heading itself might fetch you 1 or 1.5 marks, and that makes a big difference at the end of the day, right? So the presentation of the answers is something that we can really work upon.
As we have just learned that you authored too many books. So, ma'am, my question is that, how can we keep alive our interests along with the preparation simultaneously?
Yes, that's something that I really wanted to talk about, because coming to the preparation days, I even had a YouTube channel during my graduation days where I did videos on literature-based topics. But then coming to preparation classes and exams and all those, I did not really get time to continue my YouTube channel like the way I had done it in college. So what I used to do was after prelims, till the result comes, you get this 2-week break. Or after mains, till the result comes, we have this 1-month long break. So that is when I revived the YouTube things like that. But writing for me was also a way of expressing my sadness or frustration. For instance, imagine you write a prelims test series and you fail, and the next thing I'd be doing is take a paper and write. A poem might be born, a story might be born. But then after that process, it feels much kind of relief. So if there are painters among you, if there are dancers and singers among you, that interest, that passion that you have, it will also help and support the preparation that you are doing. The mental health, that is something that's very important, right? So that will give vent to your feelings, that will make you more stronger to come back into the preparation. So that's what.
Good evening, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask regarding sociology optional. Apart from your class notes, did you refer to any other sources? Like same as you, I do not have a sociology background. So how can I begin with? Right now I'm in the beginning phase. So how can I begin with if I do not opt for a coaching institute? I mean, that is.
I would request ma'am to share her marks first in the sociology paper.
Yes. For paper 1, I had 119, and for paper 2, I had 152. But usually it happens the other way around. Paper 1, people score more in paper 2. But paper 2, for the Indian Society part, I got like 152. And paper 1 score 119 is not something that I really expected. I thought, I got a bit sad when I saw the marks also. And not even for the tests, I had not scored anywhere like 119 for the paper 1 part. It was usually, like I told, the other way around. I think when you said like, I do not know how to manage sociology without coaching, because I attended a sir's classes and it has been very helpful. But about the sources, I think for optional, if we can have one compact source and if we are very thorough with it, that alone is enough. And another thing is to trust that source. Often we'll have this doubt, is this source enough? Is this source enough? My friends are learning so many other things, I'm not able to. But no, trust that sir and trust the source that you have. Believe that whatever is going to be asked, I'll be able to manage from this. Apart from one compact source, it can be a note or slide or anything. Apart from that, the NCRTs of class 11 and 12 sociology. That will also come in very handy. And those examples and case studies, value addition points that we have prepared for GS1, society topics, and GS2, social justice topics. Those things will help us for paper 2 of sociology as well. So we need not do anything particularly preparing statistics for paper 2 of sociology. It's something that we'll already be preparing for the GS paper 1. Then if we can, if you have time, I wouldn't say that you should, but if you have time, it would be good if we can read one more book on Indian society. I read Nadeem Hasnain's Indian Society and Culture. So if you can read through it, it'll give you more clarity. Does not mean that we need to make notes or study and underline. No, just read it like we read any other novel. Just like we read a non-fiction book. But the perspective reading that would give you, it would give you more deeper thoughts. And also you'll feel more confident. Yes, I have read this book. I have, like, maybe the other person has not, but I have read. So it's all this mental game at the end of the picture. So yeah, and another thing would be multiple revisions too. I told, have a compact source for optional, revise through it. Like twice before prelims, after prelims twice. Yeah, so about 4 to 5 times of optional revision, you'll be good to go.
Ma'am, for answer writing for optional, did you begin from starting when you started to prepare, or in later phases after finishing the optional
I did not understand.
For the answer writing regarding optionals, did you begin from beginning of your preparation of optionals for
Oh,
writing the
okay.
answers, or in later phases?
Yes. Even before I started solving the prelims MCQs, I did optional answer writing. I told you, like, the initial 4 months I spent for learning optional and optional answer writing. So that was something that I did at the very beginning of the journey.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Can you share some interview questions of yours?
Okay. It was Swain Sir's board, and it was an all male member board, and I was the only girl going in. The other candidates with me, all 5 were boys, and going in, the first question was, okay, sit down. First thing was, they did not ask me anything about introduction or things like that. The first question that I get is about literature. Oh, so you're this writer and you read Indian English literature. So who are your favorite authors? What books did you read? So I started, so that was something that I was really interested in. I got so happy that I got this question. So once I began talking, the other members joined in and they began to contribute. Like when I said a book's name, a member who was sitting to my left on this side, he said, yes, I read it recently. So we could, that a kind of an informal connection, as if you sit with a group of your friends and discuss about the books that you've read. And so also suggested that you should go and read Geetanjali Shree's Tomb of Sand, which won the Man Booker Prize. So he said it's a big book, it will take you some time. So when you get time, you can go and read it. So it became like a reading room kind of a discussion there. So after that, another question was the Republic Day experience. Okay, now we are coming back to Delhi. So 2019, when you came to Delhi, how was it? So I said, now the weather is tolerable, but back then it was a bit cold. I remember it was so cold, January, and we had to sit at the Kartavya Path early morning, say 6 o'clock, in the mist and the fog. So if we can bring that personal connection with the board, that is something that would be of great interest to them as well. And I faced a few questions from my home state, Kerala. It was a time when Kerala was going through a financial crisis, and Kerala had filed a suit in the Supreme Court. So, Sir said, okay, if you are the judge in that case, what would be your judgment? So, he was making me a Supreme Court judge and asking kind of a role play question. And another thing was about the migration pattern. How is it changing in Kerala? Are a lot of youngsters going out to learn nowadays to European countries, to America? So, and yeah, generally they were curious to know about things happening in Kerala. And then one of my hobbies was also teaching school students. So, sir was asking, do you think teaching is relevant nowadays? Machine can do it, or an artificial intelligence can do it. Like, why do you think we need human teachers? And then questions like, why do Indians write in English? Isn't it better to write in the vernacular language? Or should we teach students in English, or should we use a vernacular language to teach them? So questions related with language in teaching. So that was it. Yeah, these are some of the questions I remember.
One last question regarding environment. Environment is very much current affairs oriented. So, what were your sources for that? Means like any other many magazine or the government websites, anything?
For environment, PT365 is the best source, I would say. For economics, environment, and science and technology, we can confidently bank upon PT365. And apart from that, for environment, we also need to be strong in certain basic concepts of environment, say an ecosystem, what's a biome, what's an ecotone. So these things, something that we'll get from the NCRT or from any other source or web, just go Google and we'll find it. Or an environment, a basic book where we might, or even the class lecture notes would be more than enough, where we would be familiar with all these basic concepts about the environment. And the newspaper plus PT365. Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am, what would be your message to the future aspirants?
The message, it's not a message as such, it's something that my friends have told me during the preparation journey. So, whenever I got worried, saying that same thing, so much to learn, I don't think I'll be able to complete maybe next year. I don't think I wasn't even confident about giving an attempt. So, whenever I used to get worried, what my friend used to tell me was, see, this is just an exam. You are more important than the exam. So, what my friend has told me, that is something that I'd like to tell you all. We are more important. Exam, it'll come another year, it'll keep happening. But we are like, what do I say? It's a single piece. So, it's something that cannot be replaced. So, focus on yourself, your mental and physical health. It's more important. And there are more things to life. Life is not just about this exam. So whenever I got worried, I used to keep telling myself, this is just a part of life, this is just a part of life. So reaffirming that, it felt, yeah, quite better. It's not just me who's writing this, there are many candidates along with me. It's not something that only I am going through, it is something every one of us are going through. And today you might see me standing here smiling at you, looking very happy, but there have been days where almost every day this feeling of insecurity would come, where I would cry. Like at night, I wouldn't be able to get a good sleep sometimes, so I used to cry for hours, thinking that 1 week before prelims I failed CSAT. Now how do I make it? Or why isn't my marks going beyond 60? Why is it's still stuck at 60? And let me tell you something. I cleared prelims just by 1 mark. The cutoff was 75, my prelim score is 76. So see, even that 1 mark can make a difference. So you never know where that 1 mark would come from. So the thing is about that resilience, believing that the honest effort that you put will definitely be rewarded. And most importantly, remembering that you are important.
Ma'am, as a UPSC aspirant, what are the values that we can inculcate in ourselves that will help in interviews and become humble personality like yours?
For interview, I think just be ourselves. That genuineness is something the board will really appreciate. You might get a lot of opinions and feedbacks from people telling you need to be like this, you need to stand like this, keep your hands like this. But there are no hard and fast rules as such. Do we read anywhere in the UPSC notification that we need people only like this? No, interview is just an expression of your personality and how much we can express that unique personality of yours with that genuineness. And if we do not know anything, accept it very humbly, because see, the officers who will be sitting there will have a work experience which is more than our age. So having an interaction with them itself is like a feeling of pride and happiness that you have. You going into the UPSC the first time, or in your life you're getting this opportunity, right? So a kind of a gratitude, that humility that you will have, and of course a smile that can work wonders. Because whatever high quality answers you say, if there's no smile on your face, it won't create much of a impact there. But if you don't know, if you just smile and say, sorry sir, I do not know, the impact that it would have on the person would be really great. So remember to smile, be yourself, and just see it as another day of your life. It's not like a big deal. I was talking with a senior IS officer in Kerala before I went for the interview, and sir was telling me, do not see the interview day as something that is grand, like the D-Day. Just take it as another day of your life, so that we be very relaxed and very calm when we go in there. And so that was how.
Ma'am, it's a great achievement that you were able to do in your first attempt. So, can you tell from what time before the exam did you started to prepare for, and the whole complete journey? Like it might have been very much hectic sometime to manage with many of the subjects. So, what was your and as being a writer, did you also manage to do that work also during the preparation phase?
I graduated in September 2021, and after that, I joined for masters in English. But after 3 weeks, I understood this is not exactly what I want at the moment, because it has been this dream back in the childhood itself to write this exam. But everybody was telling me if you have a master's, it will be a backup plan for you. It will make you more secure if you can write the net exam, etc. So, but I went into the MA classroom and I understood, no, this is not really what I really want now. So I just dropped out of MA and I joined for optional sociology classes in December 2021. So from December 2021 till April 2022, 4 months was sociology completely with the NCRTs. May 2023, the GS classes are beginning. At the beginning, we wouldn't be much packed. It'll be on a lighter note, beginning with the NCRT test series, classes for 4 hours daily. But once it comes to say October and November, it will start getting a bit heated up because the prelims test series would begin by then. And one thing that I did not have a target like I would spend 15 hours a day studying. No. That's something that I cannot do. But I did ensure that every day I kept doing little things, making small steps. But some days, we'll have this great energy and enthusiasm to sit down and study. So when those days came, I made the most of it. What do you say? Like, completely. I used to sit down, like, you get the study mode on and we sit and study. But some days it doesn't feel like studying for long hours. So I just went according to like whatever, maybe 2 or 3 hours after class. But then once the PTS began, we'll have the daily schedule that's given. This is the topic that we'll have to study for today. And the end of the evening, there would be a test. So now you have a goal there, a target there. I need to write the test at the end of the day. So I might not be able to cover 100% of the portions that's allocated for the day. But if we are able to cover at least 60 or 50 to 60%, that's a big thing that we are doing. Because that's what many candidates who are writing the exam would not be doing. So if we are able to cover, so do not worry about not being able to cover the entire portions of the day. 60%, that's more, that's really good. That shows that you, but be careful that you're able to do it on a regular basis. 60% every day. So that would make a difference. So after the prelims test series from November onwards till say May 26th was the exam, 28th. So till March we had classes, March 2023. April and May, what I did was solving questions and going through the previous year questions. Previous year questions in the sense not simply solving them, but I used to go through the options of this previous year questions, and say if we come across an option that is not familiar to us, just go Google it, read more about it. And I very honestly say that even in this year's prelims exam, at least 5 questions, 5 to 6 questions we'll be able to solve in the first round itself with the help from the previous year questions. There were repeated questions, or either the options were repeated or the structuring was repeated. So previous year questions are something that will really help you with cracking prelims. And so coming close to prelims, April and May was a time that I relaxed my mind without sitting with books for longer hours. I told you again, reading Lakshmikant, friends, family, everybody told me, see, it's prelims, why don't you take Lakshmikant and read again? But I said, no, I can't. This is like Lakshmikant reading again is not something that I really want. So that's why I went into solving of questions. And another thing is, see, when we sit for prelims, we never know what would come in handy to solve a question. It might be something that you saw on a poster while walking by a road. It might be something that you read when you were a child in some comic book. It might be something your friend said casually. So sitting for solving those prelims questions, for a moment, just take off this thought that this is an exam, or each question is going to carry like these many marks. Just keep your mind calm and open so that your mind can think. So that our mind can think what has happened, what we have seen, what we have heard, rather than the mind working like a Google search engine and going to what we have read only in the books. So that was something. So prelims 2 months was something that I relaxed and that I solved questions. But after prelims, I'd say those 3 months were hectic of mains preparation. Uh, we had to sit for longer hours and study to reach the target, to complete it, practice writing answers. It is quite physically stressful as well. The shoulders will start paining, your spine would start aching. So it was quite physically taxing. And during those 3 months, I also couldn't find much time to pursue my literary. Even if I felt like writing a story, I would have to postpone it because I have to learn international relations. So that was how it was. But after mains, it was a really good period where I could write. I started writing a novel after mains, so it's something that I'm carrying on now also. That was how.
Did you use any other sources for your source of entertainment, like whenever you get bored of studies in the beginning phases before prelims?
Yeah, it was usually a way in which I found relief was talking to people, my parents, my brother, as well as my friends. It doesn't mean it should be your uh, aspirant community itself. If you have a good friend from your school or from your college, or even a study partner, so I used to talk with them. And I also loved going out with my mother, maybe shopping for groceries whenever I felt like I need fresh air. I used to call my mother, go to the supermarket, shop for some groceries. So that's also, it was more like that. Coming to social media, I had WhatsApp and Telegram. Yeah, that's it. I wasn't, I did not even know how to use Instagram. I'm just learning how to use Instagram and things. And of course, I loved watching movies. Before prelims, the week before prelims, I watched 3 movies because I felt I need to be more relaxed for prelims. It was in Malayalam, so I do not know if you would. It was one was Kettiyolan Ende Malakha, another one was Neela Velicham, and also a Hindi movie, I think. So 2 and 3 movies. So my father used to tell me, oh, it's like prelims, and he was sitting watching movies. But then he did not scold me or anything. He said, oh, carry on, whatever you like. So that was what. So what I meant is only we know what would work for us, right? So that's it.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you.
As many times you have narrated about, so I specifically want to ask ki how to maintain highs and lows. Sometimes we feel so high na, that you have said ki on that day just study. So how to maintain high and low in this journey, and what push you in throughout your journey?
Yeah, these highs and lows, it's something that really, so initially I thought, oh, is it something that really happens to me only? But then I understood, no, everybody is going through the same thing. And if we are not going through it, it means something is not normal. We are going through these highs and lows because we are an ordinary human being. So when we have those highs, make use of it most. Please don't let go slip of it. When you get the study mode on it, sit with it. You'll be able to do wonders, and at the end of the day, we'll also feel very satisfied. You pat yourself. Maybe get yourself a chocolate, eat it and say, okay, well done. So that's way of which we be promoting ourselves. On the low days, take rest. You might need a break for your body as well as your mind. Get in things that you enjoy doing. Maybe connect with friends, talk to them. And then you will feel that energy to come back. And another thing that would also bring you back is the guilt feeling that you would have that, oh, yesterday I lost it, so today I need to sit and regain whatever I've lost yesterday. So that kind of a feeling would also push us. So that cycle, it is an indication that we are a normal human being whose mind and body is working properly.
How many questions
For prelims.
for prelims? Yes, CSET and GS.
I used to do prelims in rounds. The first round, I used to do whatever comes to me at the when we read the question itself. So first round was only less than 20 questions, say 18 questions that I bubbled. And the first question that I bubbled was the 8th question. I read the first one, I did not know left, second left, third left, so I thought it's gone. And then coming to the 8th question, I bubbled it. And then after 8th, 9th, I did not know, 10th, I left, 11th, 12th, then the 15th question I'm bubbling. So, like that, the end of the first round, about less than 20, 18 or 19 something. So, I counted everything at the end of the first round and I felt, oh, it's only 18. Now, how do I push it to say 18 to 80 in the next hour? So that is where I thought, okay, sit back, relax. I understood like the pattern is completely different. It's nothing like what we were doing in the test series all through. But you need to adapt. This is the reality. Accept it. Be flexible. Now, if you do not know it, the person who is sitting near you also would be in the same situation. So accept that. And then in the next 1 hour, pushing that 18 to 80. I attempted around 81 questions. CSAT less than 40 only. Like comprehension, I attended everything and 10 something from maths. 10 no 11 from the logical and the maths part.